Hi friends, welcome to Cracku's video series. I'm Saili Kale. I'm one of the co-founders of Cracku and an alumna of IIM Ahmedabad. In this video, we'll be looking at DC10's analysis. So DC10, I'm sure many of you found easier than DC11 and 12 and even like DC8 and 9. It was one of the easier mocks as such. In terms of difficulty, I think overall it was at par with CAT if you consider all sections overall. So this is one of the mocks which will give you a very good idea of the level of difficulty that will come in CAT. So let's get started. We'll take a look at the quant section first and the LRDI section. I felt the quant section was slightly easier than CAT. So particularly there were 10 questions which were easy. There were, I think, 3 questions that were hard and there were 9 questions that were moderately hard. Generally, you would find about 8 questions that are easy and like more questions, 11 questions or so which are moderate and 3-4 questions which are hard. So in this case, there were more easy questions than is generally the case with CAT. Slightly more, like 2 more easy questions than you would expect in CAT. So here you would expect to do fairly well. Particularly the easy questions were from arithmetic. So if you are somebody who has actually taken my advice and spent a lot of time practicing arithmetic question, you would have found this particular quant section to be very, very good because it was core arithmetic, it was basic arithmetic that you should definitely know. If you struggled in this section, then that should be a alarm bell as such, because this is one of those types of sections. If it actually comes in CAT, the cutoffs are going to be very, very high because almost everybody else is going to be fairly good at arithmetic. So you should be doing well in this particular section. If you are not, please go to the study room and please practice more from arithmetic. It is extremely crucial that you are able to do this level of arithmetic questions. So there were 6 easy arithmetic questions, 4 moderate questions and 1 hard question. The hard question was essentially not difficult to do, but arithmetic questions are hard when they are very time consuming. So it can completely happen that an arithmetic question takes 5 minutes to solve. Those questions are especially hard because at some point of time you start thinking that am I getting this wrong or is this even worth solving for 5 minutes. So if you are somebody who struggles to solve questions, that 5-minute question might still not be difficult or out of reach for you. It might still be worth solving the question as such. But if you are trying to solve 18 questions or 16 plus questions, then that hard arithmetic question is one of those questions that you should actually leave out. Now, if you consider geometry here, there were 3 easy geometry questions. And basically, if you are somebody who has left geometry or is planning to leave geometry in actual CAT, if something like this actually comes in CAT, you will be at a huge disadvantage. See, basically you have to remember, it's not whether the section is easy or hard or whether it is CAT level difficulty or not. You have to see whether you have a competitive advantage over your peers. So if you have a hard quant section and you have an advantage over your peers, it still doesn't matter. If you have an easy quant section, but you are at a disadvantage over your peers, again it would actually be worse. So you shouldn't wish for a easy quant section or a hard quant section. It doesn't matter what the overall difficulty level is. What matters is what your competitive advantage is. So if your competitive disadvantage was geometry, that you left geometry, then having 3 easy questions from geometry would have really worked against you. So also remember that this kind of things can happen. Especially when you have arithmetic and geometry, these are 2 like very, very crucial parts of quant section, and you cannot actually afford to ignore both of them because anything of this sort comes, and if you are not prepared for it, you will have a significant disadvantage over to your peers. So you have to always make sure that if you are performing poorly in these kind of sections, then probably you have given a significant advantage to your peers. You are at a significant disadvantage because you have left something which is very crucial as such. So go back, practice from the study room. It is extremely important that you do well in these 2 particular arithmetic and geometry sections. Algebra, there was 1 easy and 1 hard question. Again, as expected, algebra, you can expect 1 easy question from quadratic equations. So do not leave algebra as a whole, especially linear equations, quadratic equations. They generally are easy questions. You should be able to solve them. Now we have moderate to hard questions from number systems, logarithms, progressions and series and probability. If you are somebody who struggles in the quant section, it is okay if you struggled in these particular questions. But in that case, you should have done fairly well in arithmetic and in the 3 easy geometry questions. You should always remember, what am I doing well in? I should do it perfectly so that my accuracy rate is high, and compared to others, I am actually at an advantage as such. So though the section was an easy section, instead of looking at the absolute marks, see your percentile score, see whether you were at an advantage or a disadvantage. An easy section is not always an advantage. An easy section could also be a disadvantage. So take a look at your percentile. How much was your percentile in an easy section? Not very easy, slightly easy section. Now let's take a look at the LRDI. Now LRDI I felt was as per CAT. You should be able to solve 3 sets in this, and in actual CAT also you should be able to solve around 3 sets as such. The thing was that you can solve only one of the 2 6-question sets. So it would make a huge difference which 6-question set that you chose to solve. Over here, there were this quant arrangement was a 6-question set, this 2D puzzle was a 6-question set. The 2D puzzle, very quickly you can see it was an easy puzzle, but each one of them required was time consuming. You had to visualize it, you had to solve it, you had to draw out the puzzle. So it was easy, but it was time consuming. The quant arrangement puzzle, that is the one with the rivers and the cities, that one was difficult. It was difficult to understand how to proceed with it. But once you understood how to solve it, it became very easy. You could get all the 6 questions fairly quickly just by putting out 2 arrangements. So then it did not require additional solving as such. So if you actually took the risk and did the harder of the 2 puzzles, you would be at an advantage over your competitors because that would have taken you much lesser time. Then you could have easily solved the other 2 sets without much difficulty. If you did the 2D puzzle and if you solve the entire 2D puzzle, you might have had a little bit of difficulty solving the 2 4 questions. So which one you chose between these 2 would have impacted how many sets you solve. Now between the roots and networks and enumeration puzzle, the roots and networks was the easy set. Always you can expect one 4-question set to be at the easier level, and this was the set. Only one question was tricky out of it where you had to enumerate the number of roots as such. Those kind of questions are generally difficult because enumeration is a difficult thing to do. You can miss a case, you can overlook a case, and then your answer goes wrong. But even if one question is like that, the remaining 3 questions were fairly easy and they could be solved in very little time. So even when you have an enumeration kind of question, 1 question out of 4, I would still say it makes sense to solve that particular set because the other 3 questions are easy and you would get the marks for those other 3 questions. The enumeration puzzle that you had where you had the detectives guessing the age and the height, etc. That was a lengthy puzzle. It was a logical puzzle. It involved a lot of thinking. But it was, if you were somebody who has solved a lot of arrangement questions, you know how to fill table with missing values, it was doable. So essentially over here what I felt was that if you actually solve this quant arrangement puzzle, then you could have done both of these fairly well and you would have been at the very top end of your attempt as such. If you did the 2D puzzle, there was a chance that you could only do the roots and networks apart from the 2D puzzle, and then you would not have been able to complete the enumeration puzzle because the enumeration puzzle would also have taken time. 2 lengthy DILR sets are difficult to complete. So with that, basically with the choice of the 6-question set, your attempt rate is essentially capped. So that was the basic takeaway from here. You have to choose your 6-question set very, very well. Having said that, many people might actually, if the 6-question set was undoable or you couldn't solve it at all, then you might have wasted like 10 minutes without any answer, and that would have been much worse than just solving 1 6-question set plus 1 4-question set. 1 6 plus 4-question set, you would be on the very edge of clearing the cutoff, but you would be fine if everybody else did not even get to the 6 plus 4 kind of combination. But if you did not solve either of the 6-question set, you just solved 2 4-question sets or did not solve even like 2 sets properly, then you would be in trouble. So a safer bet might have been the 2D puzzle and trying to do the 2 4-question sets. A more riskier proposition, but I feel a more rewarding proposition would have been this 6-question set along with the 2 4-question sets. So with that, I leave you with the quant analysis and LRDI analysis, and Maruti will be doing the verbal analysis.
Hi friends, my name is Maruti and I am the co-founder of Cracku. In this video, we will be looking at the analysis for DashCAT-10. Let us first start with the verbal section. In the verbal section, there were 4 RCs. Each RC has 4 questions each. So there are a total of 16 questions from reading comprehension, and there were 8 questions in verbal ability. So overall, there are 24 questions. If you are looking at the RCs, the way I attempted the RCs was, I first went to the SciCat's RC. This RC had some information about dinosaurs. I am quite interested in dinosaurs, so I thought I would find this very interesting. So this was why I started with this. The second RC that I attempted was the US politics one. This was also something, because I follow US politics very closely, I felt I would be interested in it. This was the second one I attempted. Normally after 2 RCs, I go ahead and I solve some verbal questions. But over here, the first two RCs I felt when I was solving them to be quite easy, so I was not very tired. So I wanted to attempt a third RC. The third RC that I picked was the first one on European literature. This initially I felt was difficult, but once I read it, I could understand it quite easily, and even the questions were very simple. And after that, I went and I attempted all the verbal questions in one go. This I think was a mistake. I attempted 8 verbal questions in one go, and after a point of time, I lost interest, but I just went through with it because that was my strategy. And finally, I came and I attempted the friendships and empathy RC, which I found to be very difficult. This was the last RC that I attempted. I had a lot of time. I wanted to do well in this, but I was not able to do well. If you're looking at each of the reading comprehensions in more detail, the DashCAT RC, to read it was easy. I felt I understood the passage very well. I understood what exactly was going on, but I felt the questions to be slightly on the difficult side. Here I felt in most of the RCs, when I spend time, I'm able to rule out at least 2 options immediately. And once I rule out the 2 options, among the final 2 options, if I put in some effort, I will be able to figure out which of the option is correct. In case of the first RC in DashCATs, I felt that boiling it down to 2 options was not very difficult. I was able to do it, but picking the right option from amongst the 2 options proved some difficulty for me. I think because of that, some of the questions I got wrong in the first RC that I attempted. The US politics one I felt was definitely on the easy side. I was able to read it, understand it, and even attempt it quite well. Same is the case even for the European literature. This I felt was, I initially felt it would be difficult before I read it because the topic was not something that I'm super interested in, and I felt it might be a dry topic, but it was a short RC and the questions were also easy. The fourth RC that I attempted on friendships and empathy, this I felt to be very difficult. Partly because I think I was very tired by attempting the 8 verbal questions in one go. So I was, my concentration levels were not really high. And the questions also I felt were definitely on the more tricky side. The questions normally, like I said earlier, I'm able to remove 2 options or at least delete 2 options initially when I attempt a question. Over here, I was not able to really eliminate any of the options because there were a lot of questions which are based on inference. Something questions like say all of them are true except, or all of them are false except which option is, like all the options given are false except what. So that is again putting some sort of like confusion in your head. Are you looking for the option which is correct, or are you looking for the option which is wrong? So those kind of questions were definitely quite present in this verbal section, especially in the friendships and empathy RC, because of which again I was not able to do very well in it. If you are looking at the verbal section, the 3 para summaries I felt were fairly straightforward. There was one para summary which I had some difficulty in trying to find out which of them is the correct answer, but I could get them quite easily. Same is the case even for the odd one out. Both the odd one outs I think were, I think one of them was slightly tricky where I had to spend some time to identify. Normally when I attempt this odd one outs, what I try to do is when you are given 5 sentences and you have to identify which of them is the odd one out. 4 of them form a para jumble. If you jumble them, you get a coherent passage, and one of them is the odd one out. It doesn't belong to the passage. Now when I'm trying to identify which of them is the odd one out, the easiest way in which I try to do it is I try to figure out sentences which are pairs. So for example, if I find out that okay, 1 and 3 are a pair, that is 1 comes immediately after 3 or 3 comes immediately after 1, if I'm able to figure it out. And similarly, if I'm able to figure out that 2 and 5 are a pair, then I don't really particularly care about the ordering. I know that 4 will be the odd one out. Using this strategy, I was able to get one of the odd one outs correct easily. But with respect to the second one, I couldn't really get this correct because I could identify that one of the pairs is definitely a pair, say 1 and 3. But 2, 4 and 5, I was not able to figure out which of them, because all the pairs seem to be going together. 2 and 4 seem to be a pair, 4 and 5 seem to be a pair, and 2 and 5 also seem to be a pair. So over here I had to spend some more time and I had to actually get the correct ordering and then eliminate the wrong odd one out line. So this strategy that I use sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. But overall, because I got both the questions correct, I felt this is not very difficult. The para jumbles on the other hand are definitely a topic which I'm not very strong at, and I could not get even one of the para jumbles correct. The reason for that is because para jumbles involves theta questions. So even if you figure out that, for example, in 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 sentences that are given to you, you know that 3 comes after 4. You know that this is one pair. And you also know that say 1 comes after 2. Now you are not so sure whether it is 2, 1, 4, 3 or 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Even one mistake, even if one sentence is not correct in the order, you get the question wrong. That way I lost all the 3 questions, and in general also I find para jumbles to be slightly more tricky. So over here I felt there is none of the parajumbles which is very easy or very trivial. Sometimes you get questions which are very easy. Here I found none of the three parajumbles to be very easy, because of which I could get all of them. I couldn't get even one of them correct. Overall, I would say somebody who is aiming for a very high score, somebody who is aiming for 99 plus, I think they should target 40 plus. Somebody who is expecting a good score of say 80 percentile plus, should be looking for 30 plus in this section. The reason for that is because I found two RCs to be definitely on the easy side. These two RCs I felt were definitely on the easy side. Somebody who puts in the effort is definitely going to get most of the questions correct in this. So if you are having two RCs to be definitely straightforward, and you will definitely get some of the verbal questions correct, getting 30 plus will not be very difficult. At least somebody who is aiming for 80 percentile plus should be definitely scoring 30 marks in this section.